I've had my chance to rank the quality of Sekiro's bosses, and now it's your turn. Over 2,000 of you voted for the most abysmal and remarkable boss battles in From Software's recent masterpiece. I'm pretty giddy to share today's results more than ever because there's quite a few shockers in the mix. But first, give a warm welcome to our return guest, Dracarys. There's been a lot of that going around lately. But you know what else is going around? A massive global tournament in Raid Shadow Legends. Thanks to your support, I've been sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends to tell you about a competition going on right now between millions of players that could get you a chance at in-game prizes or even physical ones delivered directly to your doorstep. Now you could face off against someone random, or you could find me and my powerful team of champions in the defense arena. That's right, you've got a rare chance to take on the PvP master himself. It's like your own democracy boss battle. I dare you to try it. As a quick refresher, Raid is a brand new free-to-play mobile RPG with an engaging storyline, impressive graphics, loads of bosses, PvP battles, and hundreds of champions to collect and customize. To get in on all this, download Raid only through my link in the description below to get 50,000 silver, a free epic champion, and be entered in the special launch tournament automatically. I hope to see you there. And without further ado, let's jump right into your ranking of Sekiro's bosses from worst to best. Well, the lowest boss on our list has a greater differential at -5 than the entire community ranks difficulty list compared to my own. I imagine it's because easy equals boring for many of you, but maybe there's more to it. Folding screen monkeys are tedious, monotonous, and boring. Reminds me of the Mikolash fight from Bloodborne where you chase after some asshole who's too cowardly to fight with you. Just yawn. Anytime you're reminding people of Mikolash from Soft, it's gonna be a bad time. At least the monkeys don't have a homing brain blast of magic that will obliterate all hope as you're forced to sprint those halls over and over again until you can step through it like a god. Then again, they don't do anything other than run in a half-hearted attempt to force you to solve their puzzle. Even that can be annoying if you can't figure out the puzzle, but the eureka moment makes it worth it, so maybe a 6 out of 10. If we're talking repeat fights though, it's boring. 1 out of 10. Kinda sums up the problem here. I gave it a proper due for being a fun puzzle on my own video, but it can be dull on all subsequent runs. My one argument against that is that I enjoy the race to slay them as fast as possible to get through it, but that also makes a case against the design holding up well. You might even circumvent their intended puzzle unintentionally on your first fight against them, making it even worse. I think they get some credit here for the puzzle having a modicum of thought behind its design, but even though I'd like to make a huge case as to why they shouldn't have taken a tumble down to the bottom, it's pretty hard to after my first playthrough. I'd at least note that 3.5 out of 10, while nothing to write home about, isn't so bad for being at the bottom of the list. Especially when I use a weighted scoring system with the voting in the best and worst boss overall question weighting the score. So decent job, chimps. The Headless Ape duo fight is easily the worst. Neither of them are new, the arena itself is boring with no obstacles to break the pair up, and even their behavior doesn't match. They're both either really aggressive, or the brown ape will become passive and hide behind the white one, making it hard to hit her. It's like Ornstein and Smo done horribly wrong. Easily my least favorite fight. Yeah, FromSoft, how dare you try to capture lightning and tremendous man titties in a bottle again? It's not as if you failed to do it, I don't know,
in every single game since.
There's so much fundamentally wrong with the designs of these bosses that I could dedicate an entire video to it, but unfortunately, I value my sanity. One of the largest issues I've harped on over time is that you need an arena to properly break aggro when you're being ganged up on. In this case, you're stuck in a wide open cave that is pathetically puny when compared to the size of these baboons. Sekiro does have one thing going for it that Souls doesn't: unlimited sprint. You can at least run away forever, but is that really fun? Had to say, Headless Ape Pair is the worst boss. Original Ape is great, but throwing 2 in one room feels a bit lazy and gives me Dragon Rider flashbacks. Yeah, FromSoft, how dare you try to handfist 2 reskins on us this late in the game again? Unlike Dragon Rider, Guardian Ape is a competent boss. In some ways, I actually found having to face him again to reduce the significance of his first encounter. The Headless one has dramatically reduced defenses to make up for the gank that occurs in phase 2, and the full-bodied babe can be sliced down as fast as a basic enemy. The only ounce of difficulty comes from there being 2 of them, playing on your patience and ability to split aggro in an open plane. It's doable, but it sure as hell isn't enjoyable. Stop sticking these lazy reskins in to pad out the boss count, FromSoft. The Great Serpent is not a boss. You're high if you believe that. Excuse me for a moment. Don't worry about me, just gotta get in the mindset of the other 72% of voters. Diaga's with me. The Great Serpent is a nice way to force the player to learn the basics of stealth if you didn't use it up until that point, and my first encounters with it were stressful as hell. It's more of an obstacle in the way than it is an actual boss. Look, if YouTubers upload it to the website under boss battle, then it is a clear objective fact that it is a boss. I do really like your analysis of the Serpent being a teaching moment for stealth early in the experience. You've had opportunities, but this fight really hammers the point home. Despite the spectacle, intuitive cues that string you along the path, and valuable opportunity to hone your stealth, there's not enough meat on the bone to justify putting it anywhere far from the bottom. I think we're all in 100% agreement on that. My least favorite fight is the false corrupted monk. The deflect timing is weird and she doesn't seem to have very many attacks. It takes forever to wear down her massive posture bar without doing vitality damage, and the only way to do that without it taking 20 minutes is by spamming firecrackers. I was pretty surprised to see the monk fall this low on the community's list considering how readily it was defended in the comments of my ranking. There was a lot of pushback on the idea that this buxom illusion should be regarded as mechanically poor since it can be cheesed. If you leave massive gaping holes in the design of a boss that allows you to do things like walk around and get a stealth blow to instantly kill it, or string together items to stun and make it helpless, that's a fundamental flaw in its design. What can be argued is if it's worth ignoring the tools at your disposal and fighting it as you believe it was intended. You can fall on either side of that subjective line of thinking, so let's shift focus to what it does right. Combini came to the monk's defense, saying the atmosphere in the battle are similar to that of the dancer of the Boreal Valley. The music, spooky arena, creepy laugh all add to an awesome vibe. Despite it only having a single phase, it does make the most of it. Deflecting the swings, jumping the sweeps, and performing the Makiri counter all match well by its fairly telegraphed moves, leading to a battle more reminiscent of a dance. This is an excellent analysis of everything that is magnificent about the monk's design, but none of that matters when it's way too easy to cheese, boiling it down to a nice preparation for a fight that I would argue takes everything you said and does it way better. We'll get to that of course, but I thought it was fair to give the false monk what credit it should be due despite its many exploitable or aforementioned tedious flaws like bloated posture and vitality combined with a shallow attack pool. Still, it nearly reached the average and we're barely into the list. That's a credit to itself and the quality of what's to come. GENICHIRO Way of TOMOE is the worst boss because despite being near the endgame and doing tons of damage, his only real contribution is lore. He is literally a speed bump in the way of fighting ISSHIN. Anyone who does not kill him in under 20 seconds is going to have issues the second this fight is over, which I would argue is kind of the point. GENICHIRO is designed as a tool to test your skills going into the final battle with ISSHIN. If you're struggling with him more than a bit of human error, you might want to go get some more prayer beads, try some buffs, or even use the dragon mask for more power. The lore absolutely is a satisfying conclusion to his arc, but sadly the emotion behind that won't match the battle. He is intended to be killed quickly not only as a prelude to ISSHIN, but because he can't hack it against Sekiro. That's his final realization that leads to his sacrifice. Thing is, I know we tend to look down on easy bosses in FromSoft games unless they're pulled off in a very unique and engaging way. I don't think they accomplish that here from the angle of pure bliss in combat, but there is a certain satisfaction in destroying GENICHIRO. It's a measured look through action at how far you've come since the beginning of your journey, and that's something to celebrate. Even though he comes in at number 13, his above average score shows you all respect this fight. That said, I'm in agreement with you that it's not deserving of a higher spot with all the other good to excellent bosses to come. You know, there was plenty of belly aching on my ranking about the butterfly, but so far the community is in agreement with me up to this point on everything other than the monkeys. Everything just got shifted up one spot since they fell down so far. I'm happy to see the butterfly fall here because it's the right range for her in my eyes and her score reflects how I felt. I quite like her, but there's just so much else in this game that is stellar to compare it to. Of course, that's partially because she's exploitable like the monk, but even though that shows flaws in her design, it doesn't automatically make her terrible. What could be a cool fight is marred by potato AI, annoying illusions, piercing butterflies, and kunai spam. 6 out of 10, not waifu material. Solid opinion. I would wager most of you agree with some of these complaints and disagree with others. For me, the AI is French fried, the illusions are pesky, but I like the pressure of piercing butterflies putting chip damage on you, the kunai spam keeps you on your toes at range, and other than Emma, we're looking a little desperate here. So I'll take what I can get. There are a lot of other great design pieces here. I like her verticality that can be countered with sure shuriken, her speed is an excellent twist on many of the slow-moving humanoid enemies, and I do have fun when I get into a deflect attack-orama with her. But the previously mentioned flaws are enough to hold down the experience a bit, especially when you consider everything else that's left. Most of Sekiro's bosses are too damn good. Seriously, how do we have 11 bosses left when we're already in the 7 out of 10 range?
My name is
GYOUBU. GYOUBU. I hear it loud and clear, but I'm confused because gyoza, dumplings. Is it gyaza then? Gyaza? Please help. I loved the GYOUBU fight. It wasn't incredibly difficult, but it forced me to adapt to the new combat system and was the first time I realized the importance of deflection. The vast battle-scarred field it takes place on is amazing and it fits the fight so perfectly. And of course, the dialogue. That yell introducing the first true boss in the game was the moment I fell in love. It's so strange to me. GYOUBU is the type of boss that would be stealing the show in almost any other game, and here he can't even crack the top 10. The biggest knock on him is that he becomes too easy on later runs of the game, despite this being due to how well he is designed as a learning tool for new players. One thing I've never thought about much is how he lives up to the hype of Sekiro's trailer. He probably was the most notable feature in that trailer, and hype culture is a scary beast. His ability to match those expectations is award-worthy. Sadly, he'll have to settle for the number 11 spot, but like with the butterfly, his high score indicates he's still plenty great. A substantial score jump from its false counterpart, the monk is practically breaking 8 out of 10 territory. The added phases, bigger attack pool, gorgeous arena, higher attack power to make each phase feel less lengthy adds layers I feel the first fight was missing. It can be a real test of your parrying skills even if you cheese it. After the patch you can only get 1 stealth blow compared to 2, and it's a lot of fun fighting her one-on-one. I can't disagree at all. Everything about this monk is a significant improvement. I'm not a fan of the terror status, but her terror spit is extremely well telegraphed. Her attacks have weird timings that can be hard to deflect consistently, but that makes the dance feel all the more wild. It's far more memorable to me than the battle in Mibu Village, and I'm happy that many of you feel similarly. Compared to the difficulty ranking, there was a 20% jump in those who completed the Shura ending this time around. With all of you sharing in that experience, it's interesting that this is the first boss placed in the exact same spot as my own. I might be the only one with this opinion, but Emma the Gentle Blade was my favorite boss in the entire game. Although it may not have been the most difficult, the scenery and music did it for me. Her fighting style really was gentle. Or dance-like, which threw me for a loop my first time through. I felt much of the same way. While she may not be my favorite boss, the atmosphere she manages is nearly unrivaled. And though I joke about the brute force she slams you with, even that movement looks graceful. That's without even considering how much emotional weight is behind the fight. Nankatsu's comment is a fantastic read, but the final line drives home with the death blow animation being an almost romantic close-up on their faces before she speaks her line and falls. It may be the saddest moment in a fairly emotional journey. I think what's missing here is similar to GENICHIRO Way of TOMOE. While she gets more merit for having her own unique mechanics as a fresh battle, it's still hampered by being attached to another variant of ISSHIN. Even so, as much as I wish she had some crazy multiple phase boss battle, I don't know that would have made thematic sense. The tragedy of this fight is that while Emma is a skilled swordsman that has a small chance to take down Sekiro if she can find an opening, it's more likely she'll be sliced down in her valiant effort to prevent the rise of Shura. Without additional context, I can't see Emma pulling out some wild Freed style fight. She can certainly hold her own, but slaying a warrior that is on the cusp of making his story a legend on par with those that were passed down through the ages in the Souls games makes it hard to believe she stands a real chance. Even with it being short and bittersweet, it's a superb boss that will always tug at our heartstrings. Other than the monkeys, there's only been a 1 differential the rest of this whole list so far at most. Well, the demon takes a monkey tumble down to number 8. Seeing as it received the 4th most voting for both best and worst boss overall, it's safe to say the quality here is polarizing. The Demon of Hatred is by far the worst boss in the game. He just takes everything you've learned in the game and throws it out the window. Deflecting doesn't work, being too aggressive gets you killed, and his damage and range are one of the biggest in the game. It's a boss that does not work with the mechanics of Sekiro. Then the very next comment said, the Demon of Hatred was the first ever Bloodborne boss I'd ever faced, and goddamn was it a thrill. The lore of him is deep and well told, all of his moves have fair counters and are well telegraphed, and everything about him just screams how much care they put into that boss. He almost beats out Gale for the best boss I've fought. Two varying perspectives, one painting the demon as dog shit that doesn't fit within Sekiro's mold for a myriad of legitimate reasons, while the second illustrates why it's the best boss in the game for a myriad of legitimate reasons. The debatable nature of the demon's quality is fickle and will depend largely on how well you take its heavy deviation from what Sekiro's combat focuses on every encounter outside of it. I'd say I fall much closer to loving this fight, but I can absolutely see where it's annoying that most of its attacks aren't deflectable and you're relegated to the old faithful booty smack. I'm interested to see what the comments think having seen where it ranks for the community. Clearly it's lower than I would have put it, but is 8 a fair shake for you? I'm honestly surprised. People gave the 8 more credit than I did. He honestly deserves it. Respectfully, fuck the Guardian Ape. Fuck that thing to fucking back. But like with the Demon of Hatred, there are plenty of detractors as well. The most mixed boss for me in the game is Guardian Ape. His second phase is my favorite boss in the game. His movements look very erratic, but pairing him is some of the most fun I've had. But his first phase just ruins it for me. That bastard is fast, has long ass combos, hits like a truck, and makes pairing an unviable tactic. It's just unfun and tedious. This somewhat summarizes my feelings on the matter. I still very much enjoy Graham's take on the first phase though, mentioning how it does and should act like a buck wild animal. It's full of attacks that you can deflect if timed well, but it's delightfully difficult to master, and the arena is intentionally designed in a wide open space with trees to help you escape its quick movements if you need some reprieve. After making it such a commonplace boss trope, I loved being duped into believing it wasn't gonna happen here. Fundamentally, I think the ape's overall design is exceptional. Even if there are pieces of the whole that I'm not the biggest fan of, it doesn't diminish the overall experience enough for it to drop much lower on the list. In fact, as time goes on, I think there's an argument for it to be placed even higher, but just like the demon, that's a polarizing matter. You all didn't let me down. While I'm content to stand alone in my opinion that Divine Dragon is a phenomenal boss, it brings me joy to see so many of you got the same thrill out of this fight. Divine Dragon is the best boss. From has a reputation of lackluster gimmick bosses, but this one proves when done well, they can be just as effective as a traditional boss fight. It's beautiful, unique, fun, and one of the most memorable moments in the game. Well said, Pat. Beyond what you said, the music is arguably the pinnacle of the soundtrack. The first phase, while being a bit of a chore, has its own unique flair to help you thin the horde, and the lore implications here are key to the endings. I truly think that if it wasn't for the first phase being more lackluster in comparison, this would be even more beloved. But as it stands, I'm quite pleased to see the Divine Dragon get the love that I feel it deserves. The entire game, you've been learning how to fight. You've had to master deflection, shinobi tools, and avoiding perilous attacks. When you finally reach your father, he turns the tables and suddenly you have to deal with his tools, dodge instead of deflect if you want to deal damage, and not get guaranteed hits from perilous attacks. Add all that to the emotion behind the fight and it is just mwah. I'm with you. Everything about the way this fight flips the script on you is sublime, all while balancing the emotional conflict between father and son. The dialogue throughout the fight adds tension, the tool the owl employs adds a pressure like no other fight in the game, and it makes you feel the pain of your enemies. My only downside is that the ASHINA Castle arena has a small chance of screwing the camera if you get cornered, and it's exacerbated by the owl's gargantuan stature. And I have to fairly represent that there is a minority that is not as big of a fan of the owl. In my humble opinion, Great Shinobi Owl is the worst boss in the game. He cheats by Makiri countering your thrust attacks, he disables your healing and builds up posture like crazy. I could see how these can be frustrating, but each of these have effective counters. Don't use thrusts, either push aggressively on the healing orb toss to move him back enough so they miss, circle his back, or even run away, and collect more prayer beads if his posture stacking is troublesome for you. That or hold block during downtime to replenish it quickly. From my own perspective, there's very little that I can find wrong with the owl. That's reflected well by his 9 out of 10 score and top 5 rank. Happy to see ISSHIN get his due. Sadly, there weren't many comments to add your perspective, but I did find at least one. Oh boy, that fight. I fucking love its first phase as a simple duel between swordsmen. And then phase 2 starts and it gets epic with the music getting even better, ISSHIN's flame attacks, and that anime attack. Probably one of the flawless boss fights, and it would be my favorite if there wasn't another ISSHIN. Sadly, I think that sums up his one flaw. He's overshadowed by a better version of himself in the same game. Thematically, I do love fighting ISSHIN as he's on death's door and seeing him still pull out terrifying stops to claim victory. It's especially nice if you've given him the monkey booze.
お主の目にも修羅の影があるぞ。せいぜいわしに切られぬよう 肝に銘じろ。
His first phase is very similar to his Thunder counterpart, but has a few unique moves that can be quite troublesome. In fact, I'd argue that this variant is harder in the first phase, especially with your limited posture in the mid-game. Then his fire attacks are flashy and frightening, but he has clear counters to circumvent their devastation. Even if it doesn't reach the same heights as the Sword Saint, it's a battle that stands well on its own, and I encourage anyone who hasn't given the Shura route a try so you can experience it for yourself. GENICHIRO ASHINA is the best boss in Sekiro for one reason. He makes you play the way the developer wants you to. Sekiro is very particular and wants you to approach combat in a very specific way. Up until now, you can cheese most bosses and mini-bosses with stealth or your prosthetic arm, but GENICHIRO ain't having none of that. You have to be patient, learn his attacks, and become a deflect god. I spent hours throwing myself at this man, but bit by bit, I felt myself adapting my playstyle until I was a true shinobi. If it wasn't for this boss teaching you the correct way to approach the game, I may have given up on it entirely. I haven't felt so satisfied beating a boss since mid-year, and for that, GENICHIRO earned my respect. Jesus, that hit so many things perfectly on the head about what makes GENICHIRO one of Sekiro's finest bosses. There's been a loud echo in the comments throughout all of my Sekiro content about how GENICHIRO is the click moment for nearly everyone to adapt to Sekiro's deflecting combat rhythm. If you don't, you'll be punished by greed, the bow, dodging when you should deflect, etc. But when you square up and fight, there are few experiences in this game that are more exhilarating. His final phase even gives you a faster, more feral twist on his moveset that introduces you to the lightning redirect, adding another layer to the mix. The one thing left to address is the narrative gravity behind not only this encounter, but how well it shapes the entire experience with GENICHIRO. I want to highlight and adapt this excellent comment from Patrick from the community ranking for Sekiro's boss difficulty that makes some fantastic observations about how the game portrays Sekiro's growth. The conflict between you and GENICHIRO is based in a conflict over Kuro. You're sworn to protect your lord, while GENICHIRO sees the dragon blood as a way to save his people. Despite a costly loss early on, you're able to overcome him and regain your master, seek a way to sever immortality together, and in the end GENICHIRO is unable to overcome you, leading to a realization that his only path to saving the ASHINA is to sacrifice his own life to summon their best chance. This progression in overwhelming GENICHIRO is paced well in your 3 fights. Initially, you're overwhelmed. Your second duel is a more reasonable challenge where Sekiro gets the edge, and the final time he's a pushover. In each cutscene, you'll notice a subtle representation of Sekiro's skill. In the first fight, Sekiro has to feel for his sword, showing how rusty he is in the beginning. In the second fight, he takes his time but doesn't struggle to pull out his sword. But in the final fight, Sekiro pulls out his sword swiftly to show the mastery he's gained over the course of the game. These subtle details and story significance added in with all the preceding gameplay detail make GENICHIRO one of the finest bosses in Sekiro without a shadow of a doubt. Put out father on the top, boys. Almost. The respect is there, considering with weighted scoring he broke past the barrier of 10 all the way to 10.52, and what warranted such a score. Our father was amazing. He's like, you killed me, bitch, but I can come back too. Then he summons a fucking spirit owl. Petition to put the line after phase 1, you killed me, bitch, but I can come back too. We all know he's thinking it. Here we have another extraordinary love letter to a boss. Let me summarize Lord Shadowspawn's thoughts. This fight is perfect. The owl's speed is balanced flawlessly, making it difficult to run away and harder to abuse firecrackers. Deflections are neither impossible nor simple to come by. His gadgets have been reduced to shurikens to open combos and firecrackers to end them, alleviating some of his more frustrating tools. He has an impressive number of combos and moves, many of which can be altered halfway through based on where you position yourself. The music is sublime, the arena is gorgeous, and designed with pillars to allow proper spacing. All of this adds up to perfect mechanics that are capped off by massive story significance. What more could you want? Not much. This fight really is done to an incredible level of polish. It's such a shame that he's locked behind a cryptic quest from Emma, but he's more than worth the price of admission. But there's one final boss that is the culmination of our entire journey. Nothing short of remarkable. As far as I remember, this weighted score is the highest we've ever seen in a community ranking. What's unbelievable is that I believe the score is justified. Sword Saint is probably the greatest final boss From Software has ever made. While other final bosses in the Soulsborne series had a decent level of difficulty, they're often overshadowed. Thanks to the added DLCs and ability to boost your soul level, it's very possible you could trivialize the experience. Josh goes on to say that ISSHIN is different due to the restricted level of prayer beads and memories in the game. And while it's true you could use the Dragon Mask for more attack power, that's going pretty far out of your way to get a boost. Short of farming skill points for hours and pumping them into attack power, you have to go in knowing you're going to face the most difficult boss in the game on equal ground, which gives an immense sense of accomplishment once once you complete it. To summarize another fantastic comment from Daiyaga, ISSHIN forces you to prove that you've mastered everything about the game's combat. He's got ranged attacks, super armor, swipes, thrusts, lightning, offbeat timings, combos that continue even when it seems like he's vulnerable, the list goes on. And despite all of that, it never feels unfair. Every time I died, I felt like it was my own fault, for healing while still in range, for playing passive, or for not punishing attacks readily enough. For aesthetics, having the fight take place where you lost your arm is a great throwback, not to mention the beauty of the arena that gradually turns more and more grim as the battle rages on. ISSHIN's music stands tall with the finest tracks in the game. Everything works together like a harmonious symphony that reaches its climax with a perfect conclusion for ISSHIN. He isn't executed while fighting for his life, but he is defeated and accepts his death with honor. You get to fight this legendary warrior in his absolute prime, something that was always missing in previous FromSoft titles where you're an unknown player shifting through the wreckage of a world already lost. In this story, you are the one they'll be telling legends of. What you write in the history books depends on what ending you choose, but absent of becoming Shura, your only path into becoming legend is defeating one for yourself, and every bit of it is one of the finest bosses FromSoft has ever created. But that's just your opinions aggregated. What did you think of the community's ranking? Let us know in the comments below. I've got a few more Sekiro videos in the works, but it's finally time to bring back Zelda in the mix with an Ocarina of Time boss ranking coming up next. Subscribe to the channel for all that and more rankings of mine and yours. Consider leaving a like if you enjoyed the video and share it with a friend so we can expand the community. I want to thank you all for watching today, much love to you, and I'll see you in the next video. It's like your own democracy, boss. I'm not doing anything. Don't worry about what I'm doing over here. I dare you to